Okay.
Hey, all right. And we're live. We made it. I think we're live.
Well,
We
we're
are
live.
live.
Fantastic. Welcome. We got our technology to work. So, all right. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Chris. Hey, Joy.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Chris.
And we'll hopefully not have the feedback. All right. So, we are clearly live and we are getting everything set up here for our first group live chat for our multi-sport Monday minutes or multiple minutes. So we have Coach Chris, we have Coach Joy. Welcome everybody. Welcome everyone that is on our YouTube community. I'm sure many of you will be seeing this after this actual live event because it is Eclipse Day. And welcome to the day of our eclipse, which if memory is correct, I think will be happening in roughly about an hour and 8 minutes.
Yeah,
something to that effect. So Coach Joy, Coach Chris, after we are done with our live stream, any plans for trying to view the eclipse this afternoon?
it's a good question. Joy, any thoughts? Are you doing anything?
No, I'm not, sadly.
Do you have any clients or any of y'all have friends, family that are super eclipse or like astronomical type of nerds that are out there that are really into this, that are traveling for the eclipse?
I don't know if I have anyone traveling, but I'm thinking about going out and running down because the Adler Planetarium, I think they said the last eclipse, which was not as much coverage in terms of how dark it's going to get here in Chicago.
Yeah.
But they said the last time they had like 50,000 people, I think, show up to the museum campus area on the lakefront to watch it. So it'll be interesting to see if that many people or more potentially show up this year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run down there and see what happens. Maybe they have a free solar glasses that they're handing out. So maybe I'll get a picture and we'll see what happens.
Excellent. Joey, any friends or family that are a little bit on the eclipse nerd side?
I have 3 clients who are somewhere in the middle of Missouri and Indiana right now.
Awesome.
Spencer,
Well,
Indiana, where I have no idea where it is, and somewhere in the bowels of Missouri.
Gotcha. Well, it's looked like, based on the estimation of the cloud coverage, that those of us here in the Midwest, we actually might get the best view of said eclipse. So for those that sounds like you have in that general area, I also have several clients and family that are driving down that are kind of in that sort of northern Indiana area that I think are probably going to get the best view of this eclipse this year. But yeah, I think the next time that the eclipse is going to be in North America is in 20 years. And somebody I think told me this morning that the next time it may pass over our area here in Chicago is in like 2099.
Yep,
so
2090.
let's hope for good technology. We can live for 100, 150 plus years, and maybe we'll be able to see it. So anyway,
We'll have a TRI312 triathlon.
There you go.
2099 indoor tri series.
Beautiful.
A solar eclipse themed indoor tri.
I will do my best to make it. So with that being said, so yeah, speaking of technology, we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. But we want to talk a little bit about the goings on of the triathlon world that are happening over the last couple of weeks. So we want to just kind of touch base on a few of those things, let you know about what's going on, why things are happening, or just good fun recaps and just sort of the state of the industry. And would love to know from y'all's perspective what you are interested in with regard to the goings on of triathlon or multi-sport, swim, bike, or run specific. So please comment down below. Let us know what you're thinking and what sort of things that you'd like us to talk about or discuss in these multi-sport minutes on Mondays. So first things up. Let's talk about some swim stuff. So it sounds like we have a brand new open water event that's officially launched for here in Chicago for the month of September. So Coach Joy, tell us a little bit about what you know and some updates about this open water swim event.
So it's been over 100 years since there's been an open water swim event in the Chicago River. So mark your calendars. if you are up for the challenge, September 22nd is the open water swim in the Chicago River along the Riverwalk. So far, there has been 1,000 applications already submitted, 30 states, 10 countries, and approximately of the 77 neighborhoods in Chicago, about 33 folks representing 33 neighborhoods have applied. So the deadline to get your application in, if you are an open water swimmer and want a challenge, is April 28th. A week later is when the selection will be submitted. Now, the applications are free, but you do have to fundraise. The fundraising is to benefit ALS. So you're either fundraising $1,000 if you're doing the 1 mile, or if you're doing the 2 mile, $1,500. So
Sure.
will
First off, great
you
cause.
go into the Chicago River?
Yeah. Yeah, first off, obviously a great cause. And I think that was one thing that we also discovered when talking with my swimmers with my master's team is that some were very interested, but also found out over the course of looking through all the information that yes, this will be a fundraiser event if you are selected for the open water swim. So just be aware of that. That's great information. Thanks, Joy. That's awesome. Like that number of participants or those registering that want to come out for this first event. So if you are one of the lucky few, it's 500, correct, Joy? That will be selected.
500 only.
500 spots.
Yes.
So if you're the lucky 500, I hope we can all be out there. Chris, have you registered?
No, but I probably will. I'll either be helping out with the events or I will try to get in myself.
Coach Joy, are you registered? Are you signed up?
I'm volunteering.
Okay. What are you volunteering for? What would be your role for volunteering at that event?
I have no idea wherever they need me. I mean, I will volunteer. I will be a person, I will be that person's hype girl to get them through wearing the tutu.
The
So
nice
we
thing
will
is
see.
it's on the river walk, right? So
Yeah.
you can walk along the entire course if you have friends or family spectating. Or if Joy's out there in her red tutu, she'll be easy to spot for the entire swim. So
100%. And I think one of the things that we love about some of our events is the ability to be very spectator friendly, right? And so this would be an amazing event, especially if you're not familiar with like uh, the the goings on of an open water swim. This will be a lot of fun, especially if you have friends and family that see you go out into the water and they don't see you until you return. For a lot of our triathlon events, this would be a great way to be able to see them for most of that swim.
yeah, there's not a lot of open water swimming events where you can literally walk the entire 1-2 miles of the course and see your
except for maybe the Chicago Tri.
Yeah, but not 2 miles. So Chicago Tri can only spectate for about 1 mile. This one you'll be able to do 2 laps, 2 miles. And if you get bored of spectating your friend or family member, there's bars and restaurants right on the river.
Or pick somebody else. That's cool. So great. All right. Thank you guys all for the updates. That should be a lot of fun. I have not registered, but I would think that if anybody with the Chicago Open Water is watching, if you would like for us to live stream your events and interview any swimmers going in or out, we would love the opportunity to be a participating media sponsor or participant with this event.
I think we should run a challenge. If anyone's watching this or watches it for the end of the month, comment down below who would you rather see do the open water swim race, Brian, Joy, or myself? And whoever gets the most votes, we have to apply.
Okay. So
Okay.
a very short window of time to be able to do that. We'll keep track of it over the course of the next several weeks, and then so good luck to one of us three. Okay. Moving on. So speaking of swimming, we do have an event here. We are broadcasting live from the Lakeshore Fitness Club here in downtown. And at this location, with our partners with TriDot, they do a pool school event about 3 to 4 times a year here in Chicago. They do this all over the U.S. as well as internationally. I believe London is one of the prime locations, if I'm correct. So we have our next one coming up this particular weekend. It is a sold out event, but rest assured there will be more dates and locations available. Just go to tridot /pool school. and you can get more information there. But Chris, tell us a little bit more about like what is a TriDot Pool School? What does it entail? And if you're whether you're a swimmer or triathlete looking to improve your speed and efficiency as a swimmer in the pool, what does this look like?
Yeah, so TriDot as a company does a lot of different things. A lot of people are familiar with just their phone app. But one of their biggest programs are these pool schools. They're held around the country, around the world. They're basically a weekend swim camp. They're based on the idea of teaching you what's called functional freestyle, how to be really optimized for freestyle swimming. There's other pool schools around the country that do all the other swim strokes, but this one is really focused for triathletes who wants to learn how to swim freestyle better. And it's 4 hours on Saturday afternoon and 4 hours on Sunday morning. So you can fly in Saturday morning, fly out Sunday evening, and get up to 8 hours of on the pool deck time. You're not actually swimming for 8 hours, but you do drills and you go in the water, out of the water about 20 minutes at a time. But you're not swimming actually that much. You're only doing about 25 yards at a time. You get at least 2 instructors on every lane. So every 25 yards you swim, you get feedback. And we've seen on average at least a 12% improvement for almost every swimmer across the board on average.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but like the Chicago groups are usually the on the higher end of improvement.
So far, at least I forget the total average for Chicago. I know for my swim lanes, we've been averaging 15 to 17% improvements on Brian was one of my first
you're welcome
athletes in our swim lanes. Now he's one of the coaches on deck. Yeah, we've been doing pretty good with having a lot of good local coaches, a lot of good coaches that fly in from around the country that help and contribute on these. So you're getting at least a dozen swim coaches on deck. So a really nice athlete to coach ratio. So you're getting a lot of hands-on feedback. And yeah, everyone who does it, it's especially geared, I would say, for long course triathletes, like half Ironman, Ironman athletes are definitely the bulk of the participants, but it's good for any ability. If you can swim 100 yards, get your baseline in, you can sign up for these. And we will hopefully, I think we usually try to get at least 3 to 4 of these scheduled in Chicago every year. So hopefully we'll have at least 1 or 2 more for the end of the year. So we don't have a date yet for the next one. This one's sold out. But stay tuned. We'll probably do more on these in the future.
Okay, fantastic. So yes, you are very welcome for that increase in percentage.
Yeah, Brian was one of the biggest improvers. I think almost 20% or something.
So my experience with Pool School as a participant was about this time a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, and I came into it with just open mind and but also knew that I felt like I had a limitation on my swim where I just felt like I had plateaued. I couldn't get any faster than a minute and a half in 100, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I also do swim solo a lot and not have a lot of like on deck or hands-on coaching. And so we went to Pool School, got through those 2 days, and it is for real drill, baby drill until the last day, almost right up until you do your time trial. And I went from that sort of plateau of a minute 30. As I was actually preparing for Pool School, I was actually starting to notice already I was getting a little bit faster and being more efficient. So you actually have homework to do before going into Pool School. So as I was doing that homework, I started getting a little bit faster, a little bit faster. Then I was somewhere around a minute 20. And then this gentleman here made me a bet that I would be well below 120. And I didn't believe him, but we got to day of, did the time trial, and it was a 107. So that kind of blew my mind. And even more recently, in my most recent master swim events, I did a slightly more exerted 100 for a men's 40 to 46 swim up in the 100, and I got a 101. So we're getting faster every time. So and I owe it a lot to you, the coaches with TriDot and Pool School in that event. So thank you guys.
Oh, so you went from slower than me to a lot faster than me. Have some catching up to do.
Yeah, that's in 100 yards, extrapolated over the course of say a full mile swim. It's a little bit different, especially in open water. But maybe all the more reason to try our hand at this new open water event in Chicago. So Coach Joy, thank you for the updates on the open water. That was great. Thanks for the TRI pool school updates.
One more quick swim update before we go to the next topic.
Yeah.
Open Water Swim Chicago,
Yes.
which is also helping to promote that Chicago River Swim. They just opened registration for their open water swim clinics that are part of the Chicago Tri. So the pool school for TriDot is an indoor kind of camp, whole weekend long thing. The Chicago Tri just opened the registration for their outdoor open water swims at Ohio Street Beach. Sign up for those as well. Those will sell out. It's $20 to $30 per clinic or event. There's one at least every month or roughly every 4 weeks on a Tuesday night down at Ohio Street Beach. They also added Saturday clinics as well. And those are really good for anyone that just wants to work on open water swimming. So those are kind of a good opportunity. Those just, like I said, they just opened registration. The first one in the water will be a little chilly. You might need a wetsuit. But if you can, anyone doing the Chicago Tri especially, I highly recommend sign up for as many of those as you can make.
Especially if you're a first timer.
Yeah, especially if you're a first timer. Get a lot of good tips. I'm biased because I'm always there coaching, but we have a whole team of coaches that goes down, usually about a dozen different coaches. So you can learn a lot from a lot of different coaches in a short period of time at those clinics too. So that's owschicago.com is another thing to check out.
All right, great. Cool. On to cycling. So a little bike updates. Back to you, Chris. Sound like you participated in a bit of a gravel race, which is a little bit of a non-traditional for those of us that are triathletes that mostly do both indoor as well as road cycling. So tell us a little bit about this gravel race, what it was, and maybe even a little bit more about gravel racing and how that sort of integrates into your racing schedule and even into your just general multi-sport life and how it sort of affects the rest of your schedule and your training.
Yeah. So gravel cycling has really gotten big. I'd say only in the last 5 years. There's now a world championships for it, national championships, where there haven't really been anything like that in the past.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing now for the first time gravel triathlons. So there's one actually here in Illinois. There's another one over in Michigan. And these are races where you ride your bike on typically gravel terrain, but it can be any terrain. It can be grass, it can be dirt. Usually some of it is also on paved roads. So I just did the Rough Road 100, which was a 100-kilometer bike race out in Morris, Illinois. And it was the biggest event they'd had. I think 800 people or so signed up for it. We had about 40 people from two of our local cycling groups, BFF Bikes and Triple X Racing. We were out there, but there were a whole bunch of other Chicago-based teams there. Some people just doing it for a training day.
Yeah.
But
I had one myself do the 50K.
Yeah, and that gravel race is only maybe about a third of the road is on what's actual gravel or trail, like crushed limestone trail for about 10 miles. Gravel maybe for another 10 miles or so, but the rest of it was pretty much paved. Okay. And some people use just regular road bikes. They just got thicker tires on them. But generally people use gravel specific bikes, which is kind of the new market, I would say, for road bikes. So it looks just like a road bike, except the clearance on the frame allows for thicker and wider tires. That's one of the main differences. And so a lot of times now when I'm getting new triathletes getting into the sport of triathlon, I'm actually finding myself recommending gravel bikes because they are essentially like the Swiss Army knife of bikes. You can use them for anything. Road races, you can put slick and thin tires on them for regular road cycling, or you can put thicker, wider tires on them for off-road, and it just gives you more options. So it's fun. The speeds are lower, so it's not as scary as traditional races, except for the fact that you're on dirt, and mud and things like that can be a little nerve-wracking, but they're great for working on your bike handling and all that. So
would you say that those that don't quite yet have an official bike addiction, that this would be a good reason to try their hand if they don't quite yet have something like a gravel bike or sort of a hybrid bike? This would be a great option for them.
Yeah, and this is especially, I would say, a more laid back and beginner friendly cycling environment.
Cool.
So a lot of, like, in the youth cycling world, we see a lot of kids get into bike racing with mountain bikes first.
Sure.
Just because the speeds are lower, If you fall on grass or dirt, it's not as bad as pavement.
Yeah.
It's a lot less intimidating. It's more beginner friendly. Gravel races are essentially just like that. So yeah, it's a new segment. It's a very big growing area of the multi-sport or endurance sport world right now. So we're worth checking out.
Cool. Excellent. And on the flip side of that, it also sounds like there is a relatively new or slightly more organized cycling event. If anyone's familiar with a criterium or crit style racing. So tell us any updates on where that is and what that's about.
Yeah, so there used to be a big bike race series in the Midwest known as the Intelligentsia Cup, which was a week-long race of criteriums, which are usually bike races held in cities, like in downtown areas, in these short, like half-mile to 1 mile loops. And you see people going back and forth multiple times, so it's a good spectator bike race. And the series that was known as the Intelligentsia Cup just got rebranded as Chicago Grit is what it's called now. And it is one of the largest criterium bike race series in the country, if not maybe even the world. To look at the numbers.
Yeah.
But the main event, the last event in the series is right here in Fulton Street in downtown Chicago.
Oh, rock on.
So it's in the middle of summertime. I think the website is just Chicago Grit or Chicago-Grit.com. Worth checking out. If you've never seen a bike race and you're just curious, it's a fun all-day event. You'll have usually a festival atmosphere. There'll be concessions, food, drinks, usually a little beer area, beer garden right next to the finish line. An announcer who kind of explains a lot of what the bike race is and what's going on in the race. So it's nice. It's really high speed, and they have different ability levels, all the way up to the elite level, but also beginner. So worth checking out if you're into bike racing. The team that organizes the event at the end of the series, the Fulton Street race, is one of the teams I help coach, Triple X Racing Athletico.
Yeah.
And they also do practice crits. So these are on Tuesday nights that run through the summer. This year, they're going to have some up here on the north side, some on the south side as well. And those are beginner-friendly bike races. So if you're bike race curious,
this be something good. Like, so if so I know when especially during the pandemic, I had to do a lot of virtual racing, and I got really excited about like the Zwift grit races that were like happening like every day, every hour. For those that may have been doing that, would this be a great sort of like segue into trying their hand at a live like IRL, if you will, crit race that if they've enjoyed it on Zwift?
Yeah. It's if you like that intensity, it's high tempo. It really pushes your fitness, but also works on your bike handling skills. I would say that the two tips I would have for someone who's interested in it: one, do a lot of group rides, riding shoulder to shoulder next to people to get comfortable with that. If you haven't done that, do that first, and then go and try some practice crits.
Yeah.
Because those are very beginner friendly. So if you're a little intimidated by the high speed action of the real races, there's a nice kind of progressive way that you can get into it.
Cool. Coach Joy, any crit races in your future?
No.
Just no.
Just no. And you know what? It's good that we all know where our stopping point is, our limitation is. I would be excited to do it. I'd still be a little bit fearful of that tight bunching, that hard tight packed type of style of racing, but at the same time could be a lot of fun. And just a quick update, it is a Chicago-Grit.com is where the website is. So awesome. Okay. All right, I think we're good for a little cycling update. So going into the run, Coach Joy, I believe we have a few small marathons that are coming up in the next couple of months.
Yes.
Can you update us on some of those, what they are?
Yes. So on Tax Day, April 15th, which is also Patriots Day in Massachusetts, is the Boston Marathon. So we have the Boston Marathon, but wait, there's more. 6 days later, on April 21st, is the London Marathon. So I do know of a few people who are doing the Boston-London double.
Well,
it is possible. So
You?
But no, I'm too slow to qualify for Boston. But locally, we have the Chicago Spring Half that is on May 19th. That is in conjunction with the Fall Half Marathon, Chicago Half Marathon in September. Now, if you do those two events, not only do you get a medal for each, you also get another medal that connects the two. So you get this really big, super duper medal. So I would suggest you start working on your neck muscles to be able to hold that. After that is on May 20th, of course, May 25th, which is Memorial Day weekend, the iconic Soldier Field 10 miler. This is the 20th year of it. So you do finish on the 50-yard line of Soldier Field. The most action that Soldier Field will get, unless it's a Taylor Swift concert or a Beyonce concert. I'm just saying.
At least until September
Last but
rolls
not
around.
least, yes. And then last but not least is the Chicago 13.1 half marathon. That is in connection with the Chicago Marathon and the Shamrock Shuffle. So this marathon is unique, half marathon is unique because it is on the west side of Chicago. So you start in Garfield Park, head into Humboldt Park, head into Douglas Park, back to Garfield Park. So it is something completely different, not on the lakefront path like most of the races in Chicago. It is actually sold out. And I just realized I did not register for it. So you can do charity. Yeah,
There you
it's $500 for charity. So I
go.
think that's the route I'm going to do. And that Monday is the start of Chicago Marathon training, which is
Okay.
June 10th.
Okay. And that would signify then how many weeks before the Chicago Marathon?
18 weeks.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So lots of run events coming up, both to view, to root for, to train up for, and Chris, how many any Soldier Field 10 milers for you over the years?
Yeah, quite a few. Last couple of years, I think I helped out as a bike marshal, but I signed up to run it this year. So I'll have to look, but I've done it at least 10 times
Nice.
since it first started. I think the first couple of years. And yeah, I'm excited to do it again. I think actually no, this is the 20th anniversary.
That's what Joy said. Yeah.
Yes, it's the 20th.
Yeah, yep. So I remember doing the very first one 20 years ago.
Wow. No kidding.
But yeah, it's one of the staple events in Chicago for sure.
Yeah.
It always kind of kicks off the heading into marathon season, running season, and then now the new 13.1 half marathon.
Yeah.
That's usually like right at the first week as you transition from kind of the spring season to the summer running season. And so a lot of the charity training program, group training programs all kick off at the beginning of June. So
Great.
less than 2 months away until marathon season.
Well, all right, Coach Joy, Soldier Field 10 miler for you this year?
Yes, this is, I want to say, I've done a dozen of them. I did the very first Soldier Field as well. So it's a race I love. 10 miles is not too long, it's not too short, it's just right.
It's just right. I myself have only done 2 of them. So full disclosure, not a fan, hugest fan of running, but I'm working on overcoming that. I'm not that fast, but I've come to enjoy just a bit more. But I will say, in terms of enjoyment, the Chicago Soldier Field 10 miler is one of my favorites. Being able to run and be on the 50-yard line at Soldier Field is amazing. That's probably the most action I see in Soldier Field. I'm not a Bears fan, I know. Sacrilege for being in the city. My wife and I are Saints fans, which based on how all of our seasons have gone over the last several years, we're kind of in the same boat. But I will say being a sports fan here in Chicago, I'm excited about what might transpire for the Bears in the upcoming draft and the upcoming season, because I think regardless of where your fandom is, if something big is happening in the Big Four, with regard to Chicago, then at least the city has another level of enthusiasm and excitement going on. There's an energy level that's like it's hard pressed to find anywhere else in the city. And so hopefully we can kind of bring some of that same energy on the triathlon side here as well.
Yeah. One thing I'll mention with that if any of our long distance athletes are out there, like Ironman training athletes, a lot of our local long distance triathletes train for Ironman Wisconsin. Is a big race.
Yeah.
At the first weekend in September usually. And the Soldier Field 10-miler event lines up almost perfectly with the training season for a full Ironman. So
that's how I did mine.
Yeah, the first weekend you're kind of like getting into that double-digit mileage for your runs. Lines up perfectly. So if anyone's doing like a fall Ironman, the Soldier Field 10 is a really good event to kind of start that training. It's always kind of like the kickoff of the real core of Ironman, training summer season for a lot of local athletes. And usually we go for a bike ride the next day. We used to do Bike the Drive, which is now a fall event, but now a lot of us are going to go up to Wisconsin and ride the Ironman Wisconsin course the next day.
Nice.
Spin the legs out after Soldier Field.
There you go.
And one thing actually we should also post about, I think, in the next one is Memorial Day weekend. That Monday, that whole weekend is actually the first weekend Chicago beaches are open for open water swimming with lifeguards on deck. And that Monday, we always do our inaugural, we call it our ice bath swim. And we go into the cold Lake Michigan. It's usually in the high 50s or low 60s at that point. So if anyone wants to join us that Memorial Day Monday, bring a wetsuit and join us for the first swim of the open water season that weekend.
I will wade in the water for about 30 minutes until my body feels like it's activated and do my best. So speaking of beaches, speaking of Ironman, we did have a pretty significant Ironman race this past weekend, the Oceanside 70.3. Big wins by not Taylor Swift, but Taylor Knibb, getting ready to prep both being in the it's relatively new, but newly infused Ironman Pro Series that they're launching and almost like to compete with all the other big race companies that are out there that are really galvanizing this Pro Series amongst them. Taylor Knibb having a great finish and prep for going into the Paris Olympics. I'm also a big fan of like the rivalries that we can find in our sports. So between Lionel Sanders and Sam Long, who were 1 and 2 in the men's race, that was a lot of fun, kind of seeing them and their prep work before this race, and then also end up going 1 and 2. That was a lot of fun. So any other notes, words on Oceanside? I know there's some technology introductions into this race. Joy, I think you have a little bit more information on that.
Chris would be better at that one, but it will be interesting with Taylor, not Taylor Swift, Taylor Knibb. If she does do Paris and the World Championships.
Oh, yeah.
So has it happened before? So if she has enough points for Paris, also will she be recovered in time for the World Championships? Unless she just hangs out in Europe the whole entire time.
Yeah. There's only a couple elite athletes that are trying to do both, Ironman, like middle distance or long distance races, and Olympic distance short course races to do the Olympics and other. And it's hard to go back and forth between the different intensities.
Sure.
And
I think that should be a talk all in it.
Yeah.
The training intensities between a sprint Olympic versus doing our long course distance races. So anyway.
But yeah, I just wanted to say congrats to all of the Chicago athletes that raced Oceanside as well. We had a couple, I know Brett Doherty, Kristen Hunick, a couple of shout outs to some of our local or former local athletes who now live on the West Coast. And that's their local half Ironman race. That's really Oceanside is traditionally the kickoff of the Ironman training, Ironman racing season in the country, and so now we're going to see a lot more races coming up pretty fast and furious.
Yeah. Now, is there a new technology that they're experimenting with?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and there are some races that are now experimenting with this for age groupers as well.
Okay.
But it's usually, in very limited cases, they have the Race Ranger system, which is they put a sensor on the front and rear of your bike, and it actually can tell the distance of how close you are to another rider, and the light changes. So if you get too close, it changes the light.
Okay.
So you know if you're in someone's draft zone. Gotcha. And so they're using this now along with GPS to track and measure the elite athletes so that they know if they're getting close to breaking the rules of drafting, if they're not allowed to draft. But it's also to give Ironman the data so they can always go back and verify. So it's interesting to see that new technology, which is right now mostly being used just with the elite athletes. But don't be surprised if in the future that's like the new timing chip you put on your bike. Instead of just a number that you put on your frame, it'll be a little sensor. So yeah, interesting technology stuff. But I think I hadn't looked into details, but someone said they had some issues with the system, so they might not have had it working at this race, but expect to see that and a lot of talk about that at Ironman events this year.
Okay. Fantastic. All right, let's bring it down to the local level. So we've got some tri training. Speaking of getting into training timelines and when we get into training season, I think we are now very firmly into triathlon training for most of the events that are happening in the Chicagoland area, from starting with the Leon's Triathlon first weekend of May all the way through the Chicago Triathlon, as well as any other local sprints, Olympics, iron distance races that are all throughout the Midwest that we will try to keep everyone abreast of over the course of this season. But first things first, Chris and Joy, tell us a little bit about your group with Team to End AIDS and any training updates that you guys have with that organization.
I guess I'll go first. If Joy, you want to chip in, let me know. But yeah, Team That AIDS is one of our big local triathlon training programs. We also do marathon training. But we always have a couple dozen athletes who are doing the Chicago Tri for a good cause. The charity provides their race entry, their gear, all the training costs are covered. And we do a full comprehensive program. So workouts every day of the week, pretty much. And it's a very good program for beginners. And that's actually starting in just about a month. So we're only about 4 weeks away from the start of our first official group workout, starting with 8 weeks of training in the pool and then 8 weeks where we do more outdoor training. So if you're training for the Chicago Triathlon, that is typically when you start your training season, is about 16 weeks before the Chicago Tri, especially if you're a first timer and you want to kind of get a head start. But more veteran athletes might only do 12 weeks of training or so. But yeah, that program's coming up pretty soon. And there's also local triathlon groups that are starting their training. Leon's Tri is always the start of our local racing season in Chicago.
And if you haven't already, checked it out, go check out my interview with Leon Wolek, who is an amazing human being. It talks about how he got started into this entire thing we know as triathlon and multisport, how the Leon's race started. So if you haven't already, go check that out, please.
Yeah, one of our favorite local races by far. And that used to be part of the Chicagoland Tri Series, actually. It used to be Leon's Tri and the Chicago Tri. I won that one time for the sprint distance, but not recently. It'd be neat to see if we get a series going again between local races. So with the Chicago Tri at the end, Leon's Tri in the beginning, we typically see a lot of athletes starting their training around this time of year. Other local clubs like Chicago Tri Club, they just started their newbie program, which is great for beginners. They train towards the Pleasant Prairie Triathlon. So they actually just started this past week their training, building up towards that event, which is also a good local triathlon to do. So we're seeing a lot of programs getting started right around this time of year. But usually May is when most local first timer programs are getting started, as the official Memorial Day weekend kind of kicks off the summer and the open water swimming season as a whole.
Great. Coach Joy, thoughts, comments on your role, or how the Team Band-Aids group programs will starting up here?
Basically, I'm Chris's right hand for it. I'm looking forward to the training, the new athletes who start, and we are also starting to see a lot of our marathoners who are crossing over into triathlon. It's like, you want to do it, and it's the big thing of, I don't know how to swim. We can teach you. I don't know how to learn. I don't know how to ride a bike. We can help you. You know how to run. So a lot of our marathoners are actually crossing over because they want a new challenge. So I'm looking forward to the season. And then, side note, I've never done Leon's Tri.
Oh yeah, we got to get Joy to do Leon's triathlon.
Right.
That should be a challenge. If you're not doing it, it's usually, unfortunately, it's always, or has been the last couple of years, the same day as the Chicago 13.1, the Bank of America half marathon. So you're always trying to pick between one or the other now. So that's the only unfortunate scheduling conflict a lot of our local endurance athletes have. But if you're a triathlete, definitely do Leon's Tri.
Yeah, especially first timer, like wanting just a fun, fast event, both on the sprint or Olympic distance.
And it's a spectacle. You have American flags that line, at least a mile or more of the run course. You usually have like a military flyover. We had a guy parachute in one time.
Yeah.
It's a very cool production for a race of that size.
And if you've never done so before, it's a great opportunity. You actually race with other para athletes because they're really huge, and partnering with Dare to Try, a wonderful organization here in the Chicagoland area. And you just get to race and be involved in an event that is pretty diverse, and it's great. So yeah, check it out. Again, a way to sort of start off your tri season, and maybe even a way to sort of like build up for that first race is potentially doing some indoor triathlon.
Yes.
So
good segue.
Thank you. I do my best.
Yeah, Dare to Try, the our local and really national para-triathlon training group. The great cause. If you ever get the chance to volunteer, they do a lot of great programs and fun social events too. They actually have their start of the season social event on April 21st, which is the same day as our indoor triathlon. So you can do an indoor triathlon and then go hang out and drink and have some food with some fellow triathletes just across town at their start of the season event. But yeah, we have our last two indoor triathlons of our winter and spring season. So April 21st, right here downtown at Lakeshore, and then April 27th, up on the north side, up at the Edgewater
Athletic Club. Yep.
So two back-to-back weekends of indoor tri racing that kind of intentionally transitions right into the outdoor season. It's a good way to kind of get the cobwebs out of your system and get ready for the outdoor racing season.
Yeah.
So
all right. So yeah, I think any other club update programs like with Chicago Tri Club, anybody else that you're familiar with that are starting new things, starting up their social hours, social events, training programs, anything else coming up over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so especially with those groups, there's a couple. Chicago Tri Club always does generally the first Wednesday of every month. They have a social. It's a great place to meet people, find out about programs, events, different training groups that are going on. They also do a Sunday morning muffin run where you run for up to an hour and then go get some brunch. And then when we get to summer, they'll have Stroke and Stride, swim and runs on Thursday nights.
Win those a number of times.
Yeah, so kind of fun, laid back, but competitive. We time people for those little workouts every week. And that's kind of a really good resource. Chicago Tri Club, it's like the biggest local social club, I would say, for triathletes. They do a lot of good programs. And I think it's only, $50, $60 or so to join for the year. Pretty inexpensive. The other one that is pretty consistent, the BFF Bikes. Coach Jillian, who owns the BFF Bike Shop, she puts a lot of different group workouts together, and they do monthly triathlon socials as well. So if you go on their website, bffbikes.com, I help her out with Wednesday morning runs in the 606 trail. We're also starting outdoor group rides, beginner-friendly group rides, and longer kind of endurance rides, which go up to about 40 miles for the endurance-focused rides. Those are starting April 28th. It's actually the day after our last indoor tri transitioned from indoor season right to outdoor season. So those are some good local events.
Where do those rides start from?
Those start from the BFF bike shop.
Okay.
They alternate. I think if they have the schedule up already, usually it alternates every other week with a beginner ride, which is a super chill, laid back, like 12 to at most 15 mile an hour pace. And then the endurance rides are usually like 15 to 18 mile an hour pace, and they just alternate every other week, usually, give or take.
Okay.
So different athletes volunteer to help those out too. So if there's any experienced triathletes out there that have road bikes and want to do some group road rides, come on out. You can help with those. We're always looking for volunteers to be ride leaders, or just if you want to meet some fellow athletes, because I would say probably on those group rides, almost 50% of the athletes there are triathletes. So a pretty good triathlete friendly group ride.
Excellent. Coach Joy, any updates on your end on training or programs coming up with where you work and who you train with?
Actually, not at this moment, but with our Chicago Marathon program, I do a weekly Pilates mat class virtually for our athletes. That will be starting up on the first week of June. But also stay tuned to the 312 Tri312 Trying to Shy YouTube channel, because there will be an intro to Pilates mat class for triathletes coming shortly. Okay, within a couple weeks.
Right. No rush. No, I think we'll be all looking forward to that. Great. Thank you so much.
I was going to mention, so with T2, both on the triathlon marathon side, just so folks know, Team to End AIDS does a full triathlon and marathon program. The tri program is starting in the first full week in May, and then the marathon program starts June 10th, right after the 13.1. So if you're not yet signed up for a training program, now is a good time to make that commitment. I think that we were just about selling out of Chicago Marathon entries. So the post-close.
Chicago Marathon is.
Yep.
It is sold out,
more
Chris.
Spots, but it is generally speaking that it's full, but we have a wait list and we're trying to get a few more spots. So if you know anyone that wants to do the marathon, commit now, ASAP. We also have usually New York Marathon. We've had a couple Boston and Berlin Marathon spots as well. And then on the triathlon side, the Chicago Tri, we always will have spots for that as well. So yeah.
Cool. Only thing on my end is that the most recent Tri strength training tip is out as of this morning. Next one coming up is one that is near and dear to my heart, which is how to strength train when you are traveling on the road, whether that is for work or for vacation. So in my former life, I was not a triathlon or strength coach. I just traveled a lot for work. And sometimes you have to get a little creative with how you fit strength training into your weekly routine, especially if you're on the road. A lot of times you can get a run in. Even sometimes you can get a bike ride or a swim in if you're able to get into a gym that has those capabilities. But trying to figure out how to incorporate the strength in while you're on the road during tri training season and get a little creative. So that's coming up in about 2 weeks. And the only other thing is that for myself, my master swim team is coming up. Our next cycle, our summer cycle, begins the third week of May. And we usually cap it around 25 or 30 members, and we're about at 20 right now. So we have some spots opened up, and that's at the Edgewater Athletic Club on the north side of Chicago in the Edgewater area. So if you're interested and you're on the north side, give us a shout, and we'd love to maybe have you jump in our swim. Maybe try for a triathlon. Yeah. So that's it.
What days of the week and times?
We are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6:30 to 7:30 in the morning. So
cool.
Yeah.
And if you're not up for the morning workouts, we also have downtown, at least evening swim classes. And if anyone watching the Tri312 YouTube wants to join in on those classes, or if you sign up for any of the indoor triathlons at TRI312.com, you'll get a code. The code is just free swim, FREE swim, to join in on our downtown classes, which are Monday nights, 5:30 to 6:30. Thursday nights, we have our kind of open tri-club swims from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. So if you need some motivation to get your swim training in, you've got morning options, you've got evening options, no excuses not to get your swim training in and get ready for a triathlon this year.
All right. So our little sign off could be like no excuses. But we do have a little something for everybody to follow up with us down in the comments below. Since one of our team members mistaken that it was not Taylor Swift, but Taylor Knibb that won the Oceanside 70.3. We won't say who that is, but so we came up with a good little survey for everybody to comment down below. As a little would you rather. So if you're creating a relay team for your next triathlon event, would you rather select Oceanside 70.3 and future Paris Olympian Taylor Knibb, or multi-Grammy winner superstar Taylor Swift as your relay teammate? So comment down below. And Chris, what do you think? If for those that are commenting, we can select one that has a great answer, we can highlight on the next show, and anything that we can maybe get for them for participating.
Yeah, maybe we'll raffle off a indoor tri entry. So post if you are on a team, I guess both are Team Taylor,
Team Knibb, or Team Swift.
If you're more of a Swiftie or a Nibby, pick your team and tell us who you would rather want on a relay team, Taylor Swift or Taylor Knibb, and why. Why would you want them on your relay team? So if you want to have fun doing a try, I don't know. I'd like to have both of them on my team personally. But
I mean, it sounds like a
pretty cool,
a literal
experience.
rock star team. So. Cool. Well, Coach Chris, Coach Joy, everybody in the tri community here in Chicagoland area, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and sign off because if my clock is right, we're about to have soon to have an eclipse here in the Chicagoland area.
Get dark.
So let's have a little fun with our eclipse day. Hopefully the end of the world does not happen. So we can have all these great, wonderful events coming up for the next few months. So I'm Coach Brian. This is Coach Chris and Coach Joy. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you on the next Multisport Monday Minute.
All right. See you guys.